When veteran zookeeper Dr. Elena Rodriguez saw the massive silverback gorilla pressing his hands together and pointing frantically at his sick infant, she froze. That wasn't random movement, that was sign language. And what he was signing would lead to a desperate medical emergency that no one saw coming. Before you watch, remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss another touching story like this one, and write in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. Dr. Elena Rodriguez froze the moment she saw him. Jabari, the 400-pound silverback at the San Diego Wildlife Conservatory, was pressed against the observation glass, staring directly at her. His infant son Quito lay motionless in his massive arms. Then Jabari did something impossible. Jabari brought both hands together in front of his chest, palms touching, fingers extended, and moved them apart and together repeatedly, 3 times, deliberately, while maintaining eye contact. Elena's breath caught. She'd worked with gorillas for 15 years, but she'd never seen anything this clear, this intentional. That was the sign for help. She grabbed her radio. "This is Elena. I need the vet team at Gorilla Habitat immediately. Medical emergency with the infant. And I need someone to pull the security footage from the past week. Now." By the time Dr. Marcus Webb, the conservatory's head veterinarian, arrived with his team, Elena had confirmed what she'd suspected. She pulled him aside before they approached the habitat. "Look at this," she said, pointing to her laptop screen. Security footage from 3 days ago showed Jabari at the feeding station. He'd looked toward a keeper carrying food buckets and made a clear gesture, hand to mouth, repeated twice. "That's the sign for eat," Elena said. 2 days ago, same thing. He signed water when the sprinklers malfunctioned. She pulled up another clip. "And yesterday, when the juvenile was playing too rough near the waterfall, Jabari signed stop and danger." Marcus stared at the screen, but he hasn't used sign language in 15 years. Everyone assumed wrong. He's been using it, we just weren't paying attention. Elena pulled up the current live feed. And now he's signing help because his son is dying. Through the glass they could see Quito lying motionless in his father's arms. The 6-month-old infant's chest was barely moving, his eyes half closed. Marcus moved to the observation window. The moment Jabari saw him, the silverback repeated the gesture. Both hands together, moving apart and together. Help. Then Jabari did something else. He touched his own stomach, then pointed at Quito, then made a fist and moved it in a circle over his midsection. "Hurt," Elena whispered. "He's telling us Quito's stomach hurts." "We need to get in there and assess the infant," Marcus said. "But approaching a silverback while he's in protective mode? He's asking for help, Marcus. He won't attack. You can't know that for certain." Before Elena could respond, the habitat door opened and Dr. Richard Morrison, the conservatory's director, walked in with 2 security officers. "I got your emergency call," Morrison said sharply. "What's going on?" "The infant is in critical condition," Marcus explained. "Possible intestinal blockage based on symptoms. We need to examine him immediately. Then sedate the silverback and extract the infant. Standard protocol." "No," Elena said firmly. "Jabari is communicating with us. He's asking us to help. If we sedate him—" Morrison cut her off. "Dr. Rodriguez, I've reviewed your security footage request. You're suggesting that Gorilla is using sign language?" "He is using sign language. He learned it 15 years ago in the university research program before he came here. We have footage showing he's been using signs consistently. He's not just gesturing, he's communicating deliberately." Morrison's expression hardened. "Gorillas gesture naturally. You're anthropomorphizing, seeing patterns that aren't there. I've been working with great apes for 15 years, Elena shot back. I know the difference between natural gesturing and learned communication. Jabari is signing, and he's asking us to help his son. Even if that were true, which I don't accept, you want to walk into an enclosure with a 400-pound silverback who's in protective mode over a sick infant? That's suicidal. Marcus stepped forward. Dr. Morrison, I agree with Elena. I've seen the footage. Those aren't random movements. And Jabari's body language isn't aggressive. He's waiting. He brought Quito to the observation window where we'd see him. He's not displaying or chest beating, he's asking. Morrison looked between them, his jaw tight. You're both telling me you want to violate every safety protocol we have based on the theory that a gorilla remembers sign language from 15 years ago. It's not a theory, Elena said. It's happening right now. Look at him. Through the glass, Jabari was still at the window, still making the sign for help, his eyes moving between the three humans. If either of you enter that habitat without sedation protocols, Morrison said coldly, you'll be terminated immediately. I'll have security escort you out, and you'll never work with primates again. Do you understand? Elena looked at Marcus. He nodded slightly. I understand, Elena said. Then she walked toward the habitat entrance. Rodriguez! Morrison barked. I'm ordering you to stop. Elena kept walking. Then fire me, but I'm not letting that infant die because we're too scared to trust what we're seeing. Marcus grabbed his medical kit and followed her. Make it 2 terminations, then. Morrison's face flushed red. Security, if they open that door. Wait, said a voice from the doorway. Dr. Patricia Chen, a primatologist who'd worked on the original sign language research project 15 years ago, walked in quickly. Richard, I drove straight here when Elena called me. I need you to listen. Dr. Chen, I don't have time for... Jabari was one of my research subjects, Chen interrupted. He learned 47 signs. He was the most proficient communicator in the entire study. When the project ended, everyone assumed the gorillas would forget without constant reinforcement. But that assumption was wrong. She pulled out her tablet. I've been tracking reported sightings of former research gorillas using signs in captivity. It's rare, but it happens. They remember. And they use signs when they need to communicate something important that normal gorilla communication can't convey. Morrison's expression wavered slightly. That silverback is asking for help, Chen continued. If my former research subject is communicating with us, and we ignore him, we're not just letting an infant die. We're destroying 15 years of breakthrough research on great ape cognition, and we're proving that we don't deserve their trust. The room fell silent. Finally, Morrison spoke. If this goes wrong, I'm holding all of you responsible. Understood, Elena said, and opened the habitat door. She entered slowly, Marcus close behind with his medical kit. Jabari watched them approach, his massive body tense but controlled. When they were about 10 feet away, Elena stopped and made the sign for help back to him, the same gesture he'd been making. Then she pointed at Quito and signed, sick. Jabari's eyes widened slightly. He looked from Elena to Marcus, then back to Elena. Then he made a decision. Slowly, carefully, he adjusted his position, opening his arms to give them access to Quito while keeping the infant close. It was permission. Marcus knelt and inched forward. When he was close enough, he gently touched Quito's arm. The infant barely responded. His skin was cold, his breathing dangerously shallow. Marcus carefully palpated his abdomen, rigid and distended. Intestinal blockage, Marcus said quietly. Complete obstruction. He needs surgery now. Elena looked at Jabari and made the sign for help again, then gestured toward the door, trying to communicate that Keto needed to come with them. Jabari's eyes moved from his son to Elena to Marcus. For a terrible moment, Elena thought he might refuse. Then Jabari did something extraordinary. He looked directly at Elena, made the sign for help one more time, and gently, with impossible tenderness for hands that powerful, lifted Keto and held him out toward Marcus. Marcus carefully took the infant in his arms. As they backed toward the exit, Jabari followed them to the glass barrier, one hand pressed against it, his eyes never leaving his son. Elena stopped at the door. She looked back at Jabari and signed help again, then placed her hand over her heart, a gesture she hoped transcended formal sign language. "I promise," she said aloud. Jabari pressed both hands against the glass, watching them disappear with Keto. In the surgical suite, Marcus worked with urgent precision. X-rays confirmed a complete intestinal obstruction. A piece of rubber from a damaged feeding toy lodged deep in Keto's digestive tract. The tissue around it was already dying. "I need to remove the blockage and resect the damaged intestine," Marcus said. "Sarah, monitor vitals closely. This is going to be delicate." His assistant, Sarah Chen, positioned herself at the monitors. Heart rate 95, oxygen saturation 89%. He's weak. Meanwhile, back at the habitat, Morrison had set up a live video feed from the security cameras. On the main monitor, they could see Jabari at the glass barrier, and he was signing. Over and over, the same gesture. Both hands together, apart, together, apart. "Help! Help! Help!" "How long has he been doing that?" Morrison asked quietly. "Since they took Keto," Jen answered. 43 minutes now. He hasn't stopped once." In surgery, Marcus had opened Keto's abdomen and removed the blockage, but the surrounding tissue was severely damaged, black and necrotic. He had no choice but to remove it. "Resecting now," he said, cutting away the dead tissue with painstaking precision. "Heart rate dropping," Sarah said suddenly. "Down to 85, 80, 75. "Stay with me, Keto," Marcus muttered, working faster. 70, 65. "Marcus, blood pressure's dropping, too." Marcus's hands moved with practiced efficiency, but Keto's body was giving up. Too small, too weak, too much trauma. 60, 55, we're losing him. Back at the habitat, Morrison watched the monitor. Jabari was still signing, but slower now, his massive shoulders sagging. "It's like he knows," Morrison said softly. In surgery, the monitors screamed warnings. Heart rate 45. "That's critical, Marcus." "Almost done, just hold on." 40, 35. Marcus made the final suture, reconnecting healthy tissue. "Close him up, now." Sarah helped close the incision rapidly, but the monitor showed Keto's heart rate still dropping. 30 beats per minute. "Marcus, epinephrine, now." Marcus injected the cardiac stimulant directly into Keto's IV line. 5 seconds passed. Nothing. Then a beep. Keto's heart rate ticked up. 45, 50, 60. "Come on," Sarah whispered. 70, 80, 90. Keto took a sudden gasping breath on his own. "He's back," Marcus said, his shoulders sagging with relief. "He's stable." Elena grabbed her radio. "Morrison, Keto made it through surgery. He's alive." In the observation room, Morrison looked at Dr. Chen. "Can you communicate with Jabari? Tell him his son is okay." Chen moved to the glass barrier, where Jabari was still visible on the camera feed. She made a series of signs, clearly and deliberately, "Your son. Safe. Alive." On the monitor, they watched Jabari stop mid-sign. His hands dropped. For a long moment he stood completely still. Then his legs seemed to give out, and he sank to the floor, his massive head dropping forward, his whole body shaking. "Is he—" Morrison started. "He's crying," Chen said softly. "He understands, and he's crying with relief." 3 days later, Quito had recovered enough to return to the habitat. Elena carried him in a medical carrier, Marcus beside her. Through the glass, they could see Jabari waiting in the exact same spot where they'd taken his son. Elena entered the habitat and knelt, opening the carrier door. Quito tumbled out awkwardly, still weak but moving. He looked around, confused, then saw his father. Jabari made a sound, low, urgent, desperate with hope. Quito chirped in response and crawled toward him. Jabari closed the distance in 2 powerful strides and scooped his son into his arms. He held him close, checking him over, making soft sounds Elena had never heard him make before. Then Jabari looked at Elena. He shifted Quito to one arm, and with his free hand, he made a sign she recognized immediately. His palm touched his chin, then moved away. "Thank you." Elena made the sign back, tears streaming down her face. "You're welcome. He's going to be okay." Jabari clutched his son close, but before retreating he looked at Elena one more time and pressed his hand against his chest. His own gesture of gratitude, unmistakable in its meaning. Over the following weeks, Quito grew stronger. Jabari watched over him constantly, but now with pride rather than fear. And every morning when Elena arrived for her rounds, Jabari would meet her at the glass, look at Quito playing nearby, then at her. And he'd make the same sign. "Thank you." Every single morning. Because some bonds transcend species. Some communication goes deeper than words. And sometimes the most profound conversations happen when a desperate father asks for help, and humans choose to listen. Did you enjoy this story? If a gorilla father asked you for help using sign language, but your boss said you'd be fired if you helped, would you have done it anyway? Yes or no? Let us know in the comments below. If you like the story, subscribe to this channel and leave a like. Thanks so much for listening. See you in the next video. Have a great day.